Hello, my name's Cody, and today I'll be going over game objects, specifically transforms in game objects. We briefly covered them in the previous video, but I would like to go more in depth and specifically the position, rotation, and scale of game objects in Unity. So let's start with this camera. I'm going to reset its position to 0, and I'm going to slide it over so we can get a better view here. Now, Unity uses a XYZ coordinate system, and if you look at the top right of the scene view, this is what we have here. And it kind of visually displays your current state in your scene view. So if I look around, you can see how this perspective changes. Now, if you don't see these axes arrows, press W on your keyboard, or you can press the move tool in the upper left corner of the Unity. And if we move this around and pay attention to the position values of the transform, we see that the Y value is changing because we're moving this camera on the Y axis. And this also applies to the Z axis and the X axis. So essentially what we're doing is when we move this and we look at the transform, we're changing the transform's position, or the camera's game object's position. And that is simple as it gets. So now we can also change the rotation. So if you press E on your keyboard, or you press the rotate tool in the top left, you can move your mouse around and these lines will highlight. And these lines are the different axes that you're going to rotate on. So in this case, we're going to rotate on the Z axis. And now we can change it on the X axis and also the Y axis. And we see these values changing. So let's just set this back to 0 so we don't get dizzy with our camera. Press W on the keyboard. And now we can go back to a 0 rotation, so meaning we're completely flat. We're back to its original 0 rotation. And now we're just changing its position. Now, changing the scale on a camera doesn't do anything because it doesn't have a mesh render, it doesn't have a collider. We're not actually changing the size of a camera. You just can't do that in Unity. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a cube. So if you right click in this hierarchy window, or you can click the plus sign, go to 3D object, and go to cube. So now we have a cube in our scene. Now let's move our camera so we can kind of see it. There we go. All right. Let's rotate it down. Get a better view of it. Cool. Awesome. So now we're getting used to rotating and moving. We understand that this is being rotated 19.656 degrees down. And let's play with the cube that we just made and its scale. So if we change the scale value on the x-axis, which is this red arrow, we expect that the cube to grow in this axis, this direction. So let's just set that to 10. Now if we scale upwards on the y-axis, we'd expect this to get taller. And if we make the scale larger on the z-axis, we expect it to go in this direction as well. So now we can play with the position, the rotation, and the scale of these game objects in Unity. So let's try it on another one. Let's do a capsule. Let's move it around. Let's rotate it. And let's change the scale. Let's do 1.5. We'll do 5. And we'll do 3. So this is how you use the transform to move things, to rotate things, to make things smaller or bigger, depending on your game's use case. And that's it. We'll go more in depth on position and how to change this transform over time to simulate moving objects. And we'll get to that in the next video.